Hey guys, Howard here with a true classic from the Doobie Brothers, from the Doobies. This is Long Train Runnin', and this is what I call a full-blown rhythm guitar song, okay? That's what it's all about. And it's got a few guitars in the track, okay? But I'm going to focus on that main guitar to start out with, and I will discuss those guitars as well. But, you know, that signature guitar, that signature riff that we all know and have heard forever, right? Riff, right? Okay, so what we have is a G minor 7th chord, a full-on bar chord, okay? And so we're barring at the 10th fret, and then to form the G minor 7th chord, of course, we're laying down our 2nd finger and our 3rd finger. But what you want to do for this is you actually want to release the 2nd finger and the 3rd finger to start out with, okay? So we just have the bar. And then we're going to strum the strings and hammer those fingers back on. Okay, and once those fingers land, then we want to go like this. So it's down, down, up, down. That's very important. Okay, then release the pressure on the strings so that they're muted out, and we have. That's very important as well, all right? So we have those mutes, down, up, down, up. So far we have. And then we're going to strike that G minor 7th chord, put the pressure back on, 2 downstrokes. If you listen to the original recording, you can hear how he syncopates this rhythm, you might say. And then he kind of like loosens it up with a little bit more activity as he progresses. We'll talk about that as well. So we want to go like this. That's important as well, right? 2 downstrokes there. So we have. You can see with this upstroke in the right hand, I released the fingers. And that's going to give us 2 upstrokes, okay? So we're going to go. And then we're going to start the rhythm over. Now, an interesting note here is if you listen to the recording, you'll hear that he starts it off with a couple of mutes. There's a quick down up while the strings are muted, and then he gets into the riff. Pretty cool riff indeed. And like I was saying earlier, he kind of, you know, there's subtle variations. For the most part, that's what's going on and what we all recognize. But sometimes he kind of puts some extra strums in there, so you might hear. So feel free to vary it up for sure, okay? So let's get into it. So once the vocal starts, or I should say even before the vocal starts, he plays this. So what that is that bar at the 10th fret, and then add your pinky to the 13th fret on the low E string, okay? And he'll do that sort of ushering in the vocal, okay? And you'll hear that kind of occasionally or sporadically throughout the tune. So again, that's the chord shape, and you just kind of keep it loose, like a pockety thing, okay? So let's move ahead from there. And then he starts singing, okay? Now, this is interestingly based on just a typical 12-bar blues, okay? Even though it doesn't sound like a blues tune, that's essentially how it works, okay? So once he starts singing, we play this riff 4 times before we move to a C minor 7th, and I'll talk about that as well. So we move to the C minor 7th chord, and you can see that on the screen, and then we're going to lower the pinky to the 10th fret on that B string to get a C minor 6, okay? But the rhythm is a little bit different here. He hits the bassier notes of the chord and then lets those strings ring out for a second before he starts the really kind of funky groove. And he treats both of these shapes exactly the same. So again, you're hitting the bassier notes of the chord, then swing down and hit the higher strings, and then you start the pocket. So let me attempt to explain that, okay? I've got 2 downstrokes followed by an upstroke, okay? And then you're really chugging and kind of popping the chord. So the rhythm is kind of this. And then you lower the finger. And you can see that I'm releasing the pressure on the strings to get that mute in between and attack those accents. So let me do that really, really slow. I think visually is probably the best way to accomplish this one. Let me do that again. Back to the G minor 7th chord 2 times. Like I said, it's basically like a 12-bar blues, okay? So we have. And then we move to the Without Love part. And this is the one I want to talk about. You see this being played a few different ways, okay? And one of the most common ways is just to play an E flat bar chord to a D sus4 and then release the pinky to form a basic D chord. I say it's perfectly fine to play it that way, but I'll show you what I actually hear on the recording. But if you want to do that, it's probably the easiest way to do this section, and just do it with quarter notes. If you want to add a little more rhythm to it. Either way is fine, right? Okay. But what is really happening there is the vocal harmonies are moving like this. And those chords played like that, although it works just fine, can be a little bit clashy with the vocals. For one thing, to me, the E flat sounds like a dominant 7th. Listen to it, it really sounds like a dominant 7th. And what they're doing is they're dropping, that matches the vocal harmonies actually. And then move to a D7 chord. Now, granted, that can be a little bit tricky, but if you listen to it, it sounds really cool and it really mixes well with the vocal harmonies. So there's the chord shapes on the screen for you, if you want to play it this way. And if those chords, if you want to hear that sound and these chords are too difficult, you can also play it like this. It's a little far away from the riff up here, but the chord shapes might be a little bit easier. Once again, there's your first chord, second chord, and your D7, okay? But again, if you just want to, keep it the simple way, E flat to the D sus and to the D, that's perfectly fine as well. So that's the part, right? That's that main guitar part. So from there, we just want to talk about arrangement. But first, let's talk about that other guitar, a couple of acoustic guitars that we also hear in the track. So once the drums and the bass kick in, we hear that acoustic guitar come in with this. Kind of a cool part, right? And when you see the Doobies play it live, it's usually played up here. And then he jumps down, and that's fine as well, okay? I've got it on the tab both ways, so you can pick which way you want to play it. It's quite a jump, right? I always liked to play it right there because everything's in the same spot. But either way is totally fine, okay? But the trick on this part is you slide into the double stop, and then you come back and pick the first string, if you're playing it this way, and take that finger with it, all right? Because you hear that note drop. It just kind of slides into the tune. And then we play, and I think a downstroke and 2 upstrokes, and then up, up, down. And it's the same thing if you do it here. The picking will be the same, and you slide into the note. Right? So either way is totally fine. Okay, and there's another acoustic guitar part in there, which you kind of hear in the mix, especially if you're listening on the headphones, but you really hear it more at the end of the song, so I will address it at that point. So let's talk about the arrangement a little bit. So the first and second verses are played exactly as we've just done, but after that second chorus, calling this the chorus, okay, after that second chorus you come back and you play the groove again twice, and then they do those staccato hits with little 16th note pickups. So what we're doing there is we're just hitting the chords very staccato, and then I start with an upstroke. You can see I've released the fingers, but there's variations in the actual recording. Sometimes you'll hear this, and sometimes you'll hear, and maybe sometimes just either way, right? But the rhythm is always the same, up, down, up, down. With that last downstroke being the G minor 7th chord, okay? And then you just let it ring out before you go to the C minor 7th. So more arrangement. So for the harmonica solo, you're essentially just playing the exact same thing the way you did it on the verse. You know, that's loose. They start kind of getting kind of jammy with it. But it's the full arrangement of the verse heading through what I'm calling the chorus. And that's it, right? And then we head right back to those staccato jabs again. Arrangement. So now we start playing this right on that G minor 7th again. Staccato jabs again, but quarter notes, okay? So you want to play those really super tight, and you can see what I'm doing with that G minor 7th is you're just dropping it a half step. So it's 1, 2, do it all with downstrokes because I think it just sounds punchier, but you can hit that eighth note with an upstroke if you want to as well. If that's more comfortable, right? As I said, I just do it with downstrokes because I like the way it sounds. But of course, there's a lot of muting here. You want to deaden that chord spot on. And I'm doing it with the side of my hand up, palm muting, right? And on that fourth one, you kind of hear him go before you go to the C minor seventh. Pretty cool stuff and a lot of fun to play. So when you come off of that last verse and move into the chorus, they just let those chords ring out. And again, you can play it whatever suits you. It's totally fine, you know. But they let them ring out, obviously with some in-studio and live cues. But you just want to go to the C minor seventh chord without the pinky involved, right? And then they just kick it right back in. And you hear the acoustic come in. Right, and I mentioned another acoustic guitar in there, which you can hear, especially with headphones on, but you can really hear it at the end as the song's kind of fading out, okay? And that's played like so. So what I'm doing there is I'm just playing fourths, third fret on the G string, third fret on the D string to the fifth fret on the same two strings. And you can play that with the flat of your finger if you want. I just like using those two fingers. But let me play it nice and slow. It's the same idea where you're just releasing the pressure on the strings to get a nice staccato mute, and you just keep strumming away. So you notice there's two staccato mutes in between each one, and starting out with that, in fact. 1, 2, 3, right, to start it over again. Once again, just really slow because I think visual is really the best way to do this. All those parts just kind of coalesce with each other, right? And the other acoustic guitar part that I mentioned, or however you choose to play it, that guitar actually continues, which I almost forgot about, but it actually continues when that main guitar moves to that C minor seventh. Then what that acoustic plays is and that adds a little something to it, okay? And I'm just on the B string, traveling from 4 to 3, back and forth. So just a quick mention on that if you want to add that in there. So I hope you enjoyed it. Long Train Runnin' from the fabulous Doobie Brothers, okay? And I'll do some more, okay? So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. All the best to everyone as always. Looks like Bodie's waking up. So we'll see you guys soon. Bye.